And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. Today's episode comes to us from Mission Pal Marshall, who knows a lot about the Skylander characters. So we have Skylander Blackout from the Skylander franchise, game series mostly. Now, these characters tend to be a little difficult. Now, it's not just tricky, it's difficult, because you're only really given a bare bones biography about them, what they can do, what they are. I mean, what they are is pretty self-explanatory a lot of the time. Blackout, for example, is a black dragon. So that's pretty easy to kind of start with. And he has the element of dark, not darkness. There's a distinct difference between the darkness and dark in their world. But beyond that, you might get some biography, but the biography doesn't always coincide very well, I guess is the best way to put it, with Pokemon. Case in point with this character. He is a black dragon that was born essentially in a world of dreams, where all the dreams and all the worlds combine to create wonderful, beautiful things and nightmares as well. Well, his job is actually to cause nightmares for the things that cause nightmares, for villains and evil things, and their nightmares would be them losing and good things coming their way. So it's weird. His job is to create nightmares, but it's a good version of that. And then he ultimately saves his realm later down the line and becomes a Skylander. So this is certainly a little tricky. In fact, I would be willing to say this is one of the more difficult ones I've done, because at the end, I just kind of threw a couple near the end that sort of fit, if for no other reason than an aesthetic design. So let's get into it. For Black Dragon, that I think is the easiest thing I could have looked into. He is a black dragon. So what can I do with that? Luckily, there are a couple Pokemon that fit that type. I chose two. One is Dino. Dino is the first stage of the Hydreigon line. It is a black and blue dragon. In fact, I'd actually go so far as to say it is pretty much a 50-50 split. The majority of the lower half of his body is blue, whereas you got the little red in there along with most of the black. So actually, I'd say that's close to a 50-50 split. Maybe like a 60-40, but yeah. But still, that's a mostly black dragon. It also, design-wise, fits relatively well. I mean, you're missing wings, you're missing the horn, although the horn technically is on the head. Yeah, this guy, Blackout, looks like a combination of a red-eyed black dragon and Batman. That's what he looks like, basically. If he were like more like a smaller type of dragon. But I still want another black dragon, and I only had a couple choices after that. I went with Zekrom. Now, Zekrom, obviously being a powerhouse and a legendary, you might go, is that a little extreme? And in some regards, maybe, but remember, I'm not going for a balanced team in the general sense. I'm going for a team that just fits with the motif, the characteristics, the background, the ability, so forth of the character in mind. And Zekrom works. Zekrom also is the polar opposite to Reshiram, who, again, I always mess up who is the dragon of truth and ideals. But one dragon is the dragon of truth, one is the dragon of ideals. So they're the polar opposites here. They're literal yin and yang. The Tao Trio is the official designation for them. And there are dragons of light that are the polar opposites of the dragons of dark, which he is. So this actually works out pretty well. Beyond that, while he's still not a one-to-one, he is, I think, a better physical representation of Blackout than Dino is. We see he actually has a tail. Not the same type of tail, but actually has a tail. He does have the four limbs, but he's also pitch black, or pure black anyway, has wings, and even has, if you look at his head, two... is it two or one? I can't even remember. Just the angle is bad. I think he only has one, but he's still got like a little horn crest in the back there, which this guy also has little horn crests on his eyes. So, ultimately, I thought that works out well. Now, this is where it got tricky, because I was trying to figure out what kind of Pokemon can I get on the team that works with the idea of being born in a world of dreams, or from a world of dreams, whose job is it to instill nightmares into essentially nightmares. What is the nightmare's nightmare, more or less? I am. But yeah, I'm like, that is so niche, I don't know if that really exists. And sure enough, there isn't any Pokemon I can find that really is born from a world of dreams. The Paradoxamon come close to that. But the Paradoxamon's explanations for their existence still have never been completely confirmed. The best you get is in the epilogue of, I want to say it's the Indigo Disc, where they do say that they seem to come from like an alternate timeline. So they're just alternate forms, basically. They are, by all accounts, regional variants from a different timeline. That's what they are. At least that's the explanation you get in the Indigo Disc. But that doesn't. But the theory was maybe they were from like dreams or alternate. But that doesn't work. Which, now that we think about it, that is still a concept that it can be played out. A Pokemon that actually has domain over dreams, not Cresselia, who can just give you a good night's sleep. No, and not our third option, Darkrai, who who induces nightmares. No, I'm talking about Pokemon that actually govern the concept. Pokemon that actually governs the concept of dreams. That's a concept that has not been implemented yet in the game for a legendary. Like whatever the polar opposite of that would be, and I'm not talking nightmares. I'm talking dreams as a concept. That'd be an interesting kind of duality you could have there. But Darkrai made it to the number 3 spot on the list or on the team. Now the reason for that is because it's a Pokemon that induces nightmares, but it's a Pokemon that also gets a bad rap because of that. We know, if you ever watch JRP's videos, and he's done this before, we know there are multiple Darkrai in the world, and some of them are not the best Pokemon in the world, but some of them are actually decent Pokemon. They're not evil individuals. They're just dark types, and they have a certain ability that, they use, and that just affects people. Add on to the fact he's a natural dark type, and you would get a Pokemon that kind of fits that parameter. So that's the best they could do for dreaming. Or the Pokemon individual who comes from a world of dreams. Like whenever I get around to doing Dream of the Endless, that's going to be a very unique team to do. But now we get into the crux of the problem for the remainder of the team. That is the core of this character. He is a black dragon from a world of dreams, and it fights other nightmares and stuff like that. So what do I do now? Well, as always, I can go to his move list, which consists of firing like dark orbs of energy from his horn. He can make black holes in a pinch. Like, okay, Shadow Ball is a black orb of energy, so I need a Pokemon that can learn Shadow Ball. Now, luckily, but 2 of the remaining Pokemon on this list, not including Darkrai, and I don't think Zekrom can learn Shadow Ball. I didn't check. I mean, it's not important if he can. It'd be a nice little added bonus if he can, but it's not important. Can Zekrom learn Shadow Ball? That is a good question. Shadow Ball is one of those moves that when you're talking about Pokemon that learn it naturally, it's a relatively low amount, most of them being Ghost type, with a couple exceptions. But in terms of a move that can be learned, not every Pokemon can learn Shadow Ball, but a giant chunk of Pokemon can learn Shadow Ball. Okay, yeah, can he learn Shadow Ball? Let me find that out real quick. I got Shadow Claw here, so he can learn the physical move Shadow Claw. Is he capable of Shadow Ball? He does not. Oh no, he can learn Shadow Ball. Okay, he can. So, and I think Dino can as well. I mean, I think the Hydreigon line can as well, now that I think about it. So, except for one Mon on this team, and I do mean one Mon, who we'll get to in a little bit, I think, as soon as I'm double-checking Dino here real quick, I think every Pokemon on this team can, in fact, learn Shadow Ball. So, that just makes it an added bonus for nearly every Mon on the team. Now, again, I'm checking that real quick. Wait a minute. Yeah, Dino might not be able to learn Shadow Ball. No, Dino cannot learn Shadow Ball. Can Hydreigon? I guess that's a good question. Can Hydreigon learn Shadow Ball? I mean, eventually, if you ever evolved it to Hydreigon, which takes for frickin' ever. Game Freak, Look, I am a staunch defender of Black and White. I love the Black and White games. But the level cap on evolution in that game is ridiculous. I honestly, in all God's creation here, don't know what the hell they were thinking on that move. I seriously don't. Also, if you want that Volcarona to evolve at 59, fine. Just make it a 3-stage. Don't make it a 2-stage. I digress, though. Honestly, legit, you could have taken it. I mean, don't get me wrong, we love Hydreigon, but you could have made Volcarona the pseudo. You literally could have just added a third evolution in there, make it evolve at level 59. So that would have been the highest evolving level cap for any Pokemon that existed at that point. And it would have been a far more logical evolution line. And I love Volcarona. Volcarona is one of my favorite bug types, but I'm just making a point. So this next one, honestly, I just needed a dark type to fill in that dark type spot. And for a Shadow Ball user, which, as it turns out, Zekrom already fit the bill. But Umbreon. Umbreon's kind of just a tried and true. Plus, the Skylanders deal a lot with friendship and camaraderie. So the Pokemon evolves through friendship, just happens to be at night, makes sense. Then, and this is the one that if you can think of a better mod, I completely justify the change. I went with aesthetics because he looks metallic. That's the thing. Looking at Blackout's picture that I have right here, he looks straight up metallic. Like I said, kind of like if Red Eyes Black Dragon and Batman were mixed together, because he's got those stark white eyes. He was like, I'm Bat Dragon. But yeah, I went with Skarmory. Now, let me be very clear here. Skarmory, and I don't think Skarmory can learn Shadow Ball, but you know what? Let me double check that little fact real quick while I'm out here. Skarmory, honestly, again, it's that metallic look that gave me the question of whether or not I think this Pokemon could be on the team. He looks semi-metallic, so I went with that for a member, just because he has wings, he's made of metal, he's a tough Pokemon, damn straight. So, look, I like Skarmory's, I do, but this is one where I will not argue anyone putting this on the team, putting it on the team or taking it off the team. Last but not least, though, I went with Gardevoir. Why Gardevoir? Well, one, it's an empathetic Pokemon, so it's bonding with friends. That's definitely there. But more to the point, it's a Pokemon that can, in lore, create black holes. And it learns Shadow Ball as well, so that helps too. But it can make black holes, which is something that is a technique of Blackout, that he can create at least what's called a black hole. Whether or not it functions as such, debatable. But Gardevoir in lore can do that, so I went with Gardevoir. Now, I'm very aware this is not the most balanced team in the world. I got 2 pure dark types, another dark type on the other side, a psychic fairy type, a steel flying type, and a dragon electric. I also forgot to write down what the weaknesses here, but let's just go through it real quick. If we're just looking straight at the half the team being dark types, so fighting a bug and fairy would be arguably the biggest problems for this team. In fact, I'd say fairy is almost guaranteed to be the biggest problem for this team, as you have 2 pure dark types, a dark dragon type, and a dragon electric type, which means at minimum this team has a quarter of this team. Two-thirds of this team. Ugh, my math's off. 2/3 of this team is going to get clapped by fairies, unless they know a fighting type move like Aura Sphere, which I believe both Dino and Darkrai can learn. Also, bug types and fighting types are already a problem for a minimum of 2/3 of this team, because they're just pure dark types. Dino also, as far as I know, doesn't have very special resistance to fighting. Dragon does not resist fighting, really. So it's also going to have a problem with, as far as I know, it doesn't resist bug either, now that I think about it. So bug and fighting are also going to be problems for this team. Let me get dragons typing right up, or dragons up here real quick. Damage taken. Yeah, no, they're just neutral. That's all it is. They're just neutral. They don't resist at all. So yeah, that is going to be a problem a little bit. I might suddenly go Italian there. I don't know. But other than that, and I should also note, bug is going to be a problem for Gardevoir as well, because Gardevoir's psychic type is weak to bug. So bug and fairy actually clap 2/3 of this team. But beyond that, the team actually doesn't have many other weaknesses that cover the entire team very much. Skarmory's main weaknesses are going to be fire, and they're going to be electric, which doesn't really cover any of the other parts of the team, because the fighting is going to be resisted by the flying, and it's immune to ground. Likewise, rock is going to be resisted by the steel, and the ice is going to be resisted by the steel as well. And then Gardevoir is, well, like I said, it's going to be weak to bug. Ghost is going to be a problem. Poison and Steel are also problems as well, but they're not types that really overlap with any of the other typings. So really, all of Gardner's weaknesses are its own. And the same can be said for Zekrom. Ground, it might not have any special resistance to ground, so that electric weakness is there, but that's the only thing electric is weak against. Should note, it occurred to me that that kind of makes, I mean, electric doesn't have a lot of overpowered matchups. Electric, obviously, famously, it just takes down water types pretty easy. It also hurts flying, but that's it. But it's only got one weakness. And yeah, most types at least have two other weaknesses. The only exception being normal. And normal and electric are the only two types that have one weakness. Now, does that make it, do I think you'd have to give it another weakness to make it more balanced out? I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like, the type chart seems relatively balanced as it is. Granted, there are a lot of overly powerful electric types out there. And there aren't a lot of overly powerful normal types unless you're like running some sort of strategy. I mean, there are powerful ones, don't get me wrong. Like Snorlax is still a beast. Regigigas is still legendary. But, I mean, hypothetically, if I were to give normal and electric one other weakness, I'd go the rock for normal. Because for some reason as a kid, I always thought that normal was weak to rock, and what would be a better strength for a rock than to hit just a normal thing and hurt it? So I'd do that for rock. And I'd also consider doing it for think words here, for electric as well, rock. But the thing is, I'm not sure how rock isn't. I mean, yes, electricity can actually crystallize crystallize rock, but it can also crystallize ground. So ground, because that's superheating things. So I'm not certain why that cancellation doesn't happen. Other than that, though, I mean, I wouldn't do, in fact, anything. I'd actually make steel weak to electric because, like, metal usually conducts electricity. So I would have done that. I would have probably gone with grass, though. Actually, I would say while grass resists electric, it's not super effective against electric. So I don't know why they didn't just say, okay, because grass doesn't have a lot of strengths on its own either. It's got ground and it's got water. And it's got rocks. It's got 3, admittedly. But it also carries like 5 weaknesses. And to actually be very clear, grass carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weaknesses against bug, flying, ice, fire, and poison. So why not give it at least one? Now it is strong, like I said, against water, ground, and rock. But you know what? Screw it. And so many types apparently resist it too. Why not at least give it the edge over electric? That I don't quite understand. But whatever. Point being, this is the team for Blackout from Skylanders. What do you think about this team? If you're a Skylanders fan, do you agree with this team? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And I'll see you folks for the next one.